One of the misconceptions I think people get when they're looking at Hattie and effect sizes do matter, is that they want to focus on that zone of desired effects, that ZDE, and stay completely out of the teacher effects. Now, I do think you should stay out of the reverse effects for as much as you can impact that, because sometimes that's just out of your control. But some of these teacher effects are really good stepping stones to get students up to that ZDE area. So here's another way to look at it where we have like specific skill sets and we think about those stepping stones to get students into this level 3, if you will, this transfer of learning area where we want them to be. So sometimes, especially when we're doing with students who really need concrete, explicit direction, we're going to be in this surface learning area. But we want to use the strategies here in this column. I'll move away out of the way so you can read them. But eventually we want to get over into this area and use some strategies that help them deepen their learning in the content and eventually have them work in this transfer of learning. That means the skill sets that they learn in your class, they're able to use outside the classroom and in other subject areas. Now, all that happens during instruction, while you're teaching, day in, day out. But also, look at the stuff down here, these foundational aspects right here. These are all things that you can plan ahead for with your teaching team to make your year a lot more effective for the students. You do this by talking about your standards, talking about the content you're teaching, talking about the curriculum. When along your school year schedule, you plan on hitting some of these topics or standards and skills. So for example, we took our standards and put them in a spreadsheet and we did some vertical alignment work. We just looked across and saw what are the trends that we see? What are some common characteristics between these standards from grade to grade to grade? We took those standards out with the highlights of like, okay, here's the things that we see grow as the standard progresses from one grade all the way up to grade 12. For instance, here, connections came up a lot. So connections must be a big deal. And what are some aspects of that? Well, some of the building blocks in connections are cause and effect. And eventually that language changes and shifts to analyze. So we wanted to actually come up with a shared understanding of what connections is when it comes to our academic work. So here it is. Students make connections by, and we have 4 aspects of how they make connections. Along with that, we shared some strategies that we could use across the grade levels that would be common shared strategies so students are familiar with them, but we put our own twist on them, of course, from grade to grade and level up the complexity. Ultimately, we want to have that vertical alignment look something like this, where we take those pages and pages and pages of standards and break them up so we really have a shared understanding across the board, and we see that some standards are going to be really important starting in grades K all the way through 12, while some are actually going to get more emphasis in the lower grades than the older. All right, so let's talk more about teacher expectations and teacher clarity. I think it's a pretty common practice to post your objectives on the board. For that practice to be effective and impact students, we really have to direct their attention to it and use it for explicit, direct instruction. So that might look something like this. So here's our learning today. I want you to just quietly repeat after me, okay? You can just quietly, just under your breath, if I need to at least hear you. Try. Ready? So our goal today is this. I can describe the cycling of water through Earth's system. Driven by energy from the sun and the forces of gravity. From the sun and forces of gravity. Fantastic. What elements of nature do we see in that? Just yell it out. Water. What else? Energy from the sun. Gravity. Perfect. Earth. Lots of energy in there. Fantastic. Thank you. So this is what we're going to focus on today. Okay, so breaking down your posted learning objective at the beginning of class is really important, but it's also extremely important to do the same thing and go back and review it at the end of class. Now, you can do this as a formative assessment, like an exit ticket, but you can also just talk about it and, again, direct their attention back to the posted learning objective. Today, say it with me again. All right, ready? I can describe the cycling of water through Earth's system, driven by the energy from the sun and the focus of energy, of gravity. Fantastic. So if you really can do that, then you should be able to explain it to the person sitting next to you. So take 2 minutes to do that. Go. All right, you don't need 2 minutes. I think you're good. Okay.
Explain your brain.
So fog is created by, or I guess I should say water is in fog, right? As you noticed over here. Vapor, mist, water. But the sun, what is the sun's energy?
We were doing
do
a
to
smarter
the water?
balance practice question today, on that day.
Heats it up, and when it's heated up, it does what? It disappears, which is a scientific term called evaporates, right? Y'all remember that?
Domain-specific vocabulary, making them use that scientific vocabulary.
All right. Now, when it's all together, it's heavy, and so what makes the fog on the ground? Yeah, very good. And when it's heated up, it becomes lighter than gravity. Fantastic. Okay. I think you did a great job. So now you can write an essay report on that. Yes? Like, I either need to hear you confidently can do that, or we just need to, like, break out the pencils and paper right now and see that you can do that. Big yes? Big confident yes? Okay. We still need to work more? You're like, nah, sure about that? Okay, fantastic. What is the other objective y'all have for today?
And of course, I was walking around listening while they were turning and talking, explaining their brain, and seeing if they're picking up on the importance of using that vocabulary when they're describing that process for that specific objective based on, I believe it was 8th grade earth science standards at that time. But no matter what strategy you choose, have a clear learning objective. And then they'll be able to apply all these skill sets, all these strategies to the content.